Well, Mark Robinson, interim manager no more. How does it feel to be head coach now in your new office here at Plough Lane?
Yeah, obviously overjoyed, Rob, that goes without saying. I think people know how I feel. I can't put it into words in terms of sitting in the office. It's not really me. I love being around people, and so this bit is irrelevant. But in terms of the job, absolutely fantastic. I can't put it in words, so it's pointless. But yeah, so really excited, really stimulated, and just really looking forward to the future.
What can you tell us about the responsibilities of the term head coach? What's that, the role entail?
Yeah, well, Joe said yes, how he sees it as a head coach, and that fits very much in the line of how I see it as well. So it's a lot more on the grass coaching, which I feel that's where my strength is, and also dealing with people. I think really it's just taking away that recruitment side more than anything. So, I think it's important as a person, no matter what you do, what your profession is, you know where your strengths are and where your weaknesses lie. So, recruitment isn't something that I've done massively, and I don't feel as a head coach that it's something that you want to be doing. I don't want to be on my phone at the training ground. I don't want to be walking around with agents ringing me. I feel my job as a head coach is to identify. Once we've got our identity as a team and how we play, I think my job is then to identify where we need strengthening and the type of player that we need. And then I feel that it's the club to have a recruitment policy where they provide names, based on data of the players that could fill that spot. And then even after that, I think it's so key that we have character profiling as well, because you need to make sure, okay, they might be physically the right player and technically the right player, but we need to make sure they're the right character. That's so key with our club and our story. So we've got to make sure the character's right.
So you've been to other clubs as well. You've been to like Man City and now Wimbledon. You're taking it from very different environments of football, yeah?
Very different in terms of facilities and structures. But I think, what makes a club is the people. And the people are always the most important thing. What's been impressive today has been the people in the club.
Steve,
you've also got in Mark Robinson. I mean, I have worked at clubs like Bayern and Manchester City and other clubs. In my opinion, Mark is one of the best academy coaches that I've seen, and that's one of the reasons why I still keep coming. Sorry to interrupt you there, Eddie, but I think this Mark, with the budget that he's working with, when you think about Man City and Bayern Munich with their huge budgets, and I think it's the quality of people, isn't it? Always.
Not that you ever would be, but there's never going to be any excuses for you being late, because you only live up the road in Earlsfield, don't you?
Yeah.
But in terms of the community as well, though, how important is that to you, that aspect? Obviously, we saw you very active with the Don's local action when the lockdown started.
Yeah, and I've always, apart from early days, lived in this. I've always been in southwest London, so it's the dream job in many ways. But yeah, it's quite nice the fact that I can actually walk to work on a Saturday or midweek. It's fantastic. I drove past the ground yesterday with Claire. We've been shopping on the Wednesday and we drove past, and that was just a bit of a surreal moment. She looked at the stadium and they got the big badge and she just went, I won't tell you what she said, but it was quite funny. Yeah, and I've made no bones, I was never a Wimbledon fan. I had no connection to the club, but I look at that as quite powerful, because when I was younger, I can't lie, if someone had said to me that I could possibly love another football club from the club I was brought up to support as a kid by my dad. Football was everything in our family. Everyone went to football in my family. I would have just laughed. I was that typical, stereotypical fan, one club man. So I just think in some ways it's so powerful the way I feel about the club, because I never thought that was possible. And a lot of that is the journey I've been on, but a lot of that is also down to my dad and the values he put into me.
You just touched upon your upbringing there as well. Just give us a sort of an idea of your early days of growing up, of course, as well. It was a bit of a tough council estate you came off of, yeah?
Yeah, well, my family originally from Millbank by Pimlico. That's where they were all from, and then we moved to a council estate in Putney. So that's where I was brought up mainly, and I went to school there. Both the schools I went to were on the estate, and yeah, I mean it was like all council estates. There was your rough areas and your certain kids, but I wouldn't have changed it for the world, because it was just like a big playground. And then we was there, and then when I moved out, I literally went straight from there, moved to Earlsfield, and that's where I've been ever since.
You got into coaching, and you spoke about in the first interview we ever did, I think, over at Goals, you spoke about a key figure at Fulham and at Wimbledon when you first got into it. Tony Wilson, tell us about that.
Yeah, so Tony was he was an older player at Fulham, so he was a few years older than me. So and he just had great character, the way he used to look after the young lads. But he then went off to Arsenal. He got an apprenticeship at Arsenal, and then his brother Robert Wilson played for Fulham, and he used to come down and coach us sometimes. And I got on really well with him. So he rated me. And then I just bumped into Tony later years, and at the time I just started when I give up football, like when it didn't work out for me, I can't lie, I lost my head a little bit because it was all I ever wanted to do and all I ever wanted to be. But I worked uptown for the Performing Rights Society, and I coached the side there, and the lads there kept saying, "Oh, will you do some sessions?" They used to play the Dutch version of PRS, so basically they used to get absolutely destroyed every year because they played the Dutch would play total football. So they said, "Oh, can you do some sessions with us?" Because I was doing a little bit of coaching. So I went over Regent's Park and I did 5 or 6 sessions with them. We went over to Holland. We played at the De Meer, which is the old Ajax arena. And I actually played. I said, "Oh, can I play the first half?" I said, "I probably won't last much longer than that." And I played 45, but we beat them 4-2. And the Dutch were like, "Wow, where's this come from?" And the lads were going mad. And that was the first time I thought, I can do this. I can affect players and I can affect teams. So I started coaching, but it was tough. I had a really, really good job at Uptown. I was earning good money. And but I started doing a little bit of coaching. I did it in boys' clubs, and then I used to work at Crystal Palace, sort of as a community coach. I was doing stuff there, and the guy there just said, he took me down to Palace and said, "Look, you need to do your badges and get a job there." But then I bumped into Tony by the off chance down the gym, and we had a chat, and I just said, "I really want to coach." And he was at Wimbledon. He was doing the under-9s at AFC Wimbledon. He said, "Well, just come down and do it." And I didn't know what to expect. And as I said, we were back then, the first team were in the Ryman Prem. All the boys were playing Sunday League football, and he gave me this little under-9 group, and that was how it all started. Literally coached for goals, as I've said many times. Did that first session, he just let me go, and again, that was great because I turned up, didn't know what to expect, and he just went, "Away you go," and I was like, "What, should I do it?" She's got these little kids looking, and he just gave me the freedom to try out everything that I thought about coaching and educating young people. In the early days, they used to lose games all the time because, I felt differently about how you should develop young players, and the parents would get the ump because they'd lost again. And I just, again, you said, "No, stick with the process. When it gets to 11-a-side, it'd be great," and that's what happened. They got to 11-a-side, and they were so comfortable on the ball. They went on that 104 game win. But Tony was a massive influence because he never questioned. He did, but not in a way that it made you feel uncomfortable doing it. I remember we were about 80 wins on the spin, and we played, I can't remember who we played, but we travelled somewhere to play another side who were meant to be a really, really good side. And the night before, I'd watched Atletico Bilbao play against Man United, and I watched the way they press, and I was so excited, and I said, "Tone, I've seen this press, can we do the press?" And I could see he wanted to say, "No, you're not going to do a press 25 minutes before a game," but he let me, and actually Michael Hamilton was there. So we set him up on the side of a pitch and went through the press. And he so easily could have said, "Oh, Robbo, does it matter today?" But he let me do it. And I think we were 4-0 up within about 25 minutes. So he was a bigger influence on how you need to give people responsibility. You still make them accountable, but you give them responsibility. So he was a massive influence. I know if we get the players, get the squad strong enough, and we get the coaching right, I honestly believe that our centre of excellence will be as good as anywhere. We won't be able to match facilities sometimes, but to me it's about the detail in the coaching. A lot of centre of excellence rely on recruitment and networking. We don't want that. We want boys that understand about the club. They get coached properly, they get nurtured properly. Just because they got a couple of weaknesses, we don't let them go. For me, if we have a boy for 6 years and we can't improve his weaknesses, then we shouldn't be here. So, I would like to think within 5 years there's no reason why Wimbledon fans aren't looking out on the pitch and at least half that side is homegrown, and I honestly believe we can do that.
This is where we've really got to talk about it now. This is where you rose to prominence in terms of the FA Youth Cup runs. I mean, I know people focus on, rightly so, the likes of Watford and Newcastle, but there are other great performances as well against Hull City, of course, and Huddersfield.
Yeah. And they were great nights, Rob. And as you know, you talk about building cultures and environments, you know, that you don't get 350 people travel up to Newcastle on a Tuesday night or Wednesday night, whatever it was, to go and support a youth game. And I'm talking fans, I'm not talking family. You know, that's because they felt something off those boys. They felt something real.
No, listen, it's real and it was good, but you're better. And if you want to go and be better against Chelsea and put out or up Man United, you've got to. It is real, son, and you are quality. Wait, listen, and you are quality.
And we think we're a big club, and we are a big club. But I have to say, I take my hat off to you, lad. Thought you were fantastic. And it would have been an injustice if you hadn't won. I really mean that. Even though I work for Newcastle, and obviously I want my team to win, but it was a pleasure to watch it. Every one of you from the start to the finish, and you deserve everything you get, lads.
And this is part of what I want to build now, you know, because that they identified with those players, and it wasn't fake. They knew that them players loved the club, and this is what I want to build here now, because it is a massive part of performance as well. You know, with the lads, you know, don't want to say punched above their weight because they were really, really good players, but it's building that identity and that genuine passion. And genuine passion comes from actions. It doesn't come from words. It comes from what you do, you know, on a day-to-day basis. You know, it doesn't come from sitting here saying how much I love a football club. It's always your actions that people will identify with. It's not your words.
Rob Tooby, we've him out there coaching with you again today. James Oliver-Pierce's been on that journey with you as well. Yeah. What role do they play in the future with you going forward as well?
Massive future, and you know, when I used to sit with Jeremy and Mike when he was here, it's always been about developing everyone in the building, and that's what we're about. We've got to keep these people in the building, and I'm not just saying this because they're my friends and I know them. You know, I visit all academies, I go on various courses, I come up against all different coaches. They are talented young men, and it's not those. We've got Jack Matthews who looks after our 9s to 12s, and you know, he'd get a job anywhere in Europe looking after that age group. I mean, the work he does is unbelievable, and if I put any parent in from the 9s to 12s, they would just, you know, absolutely gush about what he does with these lads. He's fantastic. So, you know, if we're going to build something, we've got to develop these people, and we've got to look after them, you know. And people will go, oh no, if they get offers, they'll stay. That they will go. It's nonsense. If you give them a belief and give them a pathway and show where they can go with something, I believe they give you back that loyalty. And it's, you know, football doesn't have to be about money.
So have you got that structure in mind? Have you got an assistant in mind? What's happening with Ashley Bayes and so on?
Yeah, so Bezo's come closer to me in everything we do, and I've got to say he's been absolutely fantastic. I mean, you know, Bezo's been through 3 managers now, which can be quite emotional and different ideas, but the way he's bought into the way I see things has been brilliant. And not only has he bought into it, he's been a massive influence. I mean, he's coming to me with stuff which is just brilliant. He's sending me stuff, and you know, I don't mean to, I'm seeing another side to Bezo that I possibly hadn't seen. We've always got on really, really well, but I'm seeing another side to him. You know, he's coming up with ideas and saying, "What about this?" And it's exciting. That's exciting. So I'm really glad he's stimulated, and he will be very close to me in what we do. But I will be looking to bring in an assistant. So, you know, because I need that, because there'll be times when I don't just want to coach, I want to step back and watch things and look at detail. And sometimes to take yourself out of that and watch other people coach a session and just look is really, really important. So I'm hoping that will be resolved, if not by this weekend, very early next week. But no, Rob will be staying in.
Psychology's been a big part of the game as well now. That's something you've tapped into and you've been working with the players. Is that something you want to expand upon as well?
Yeah. I've brought in someone already, Steve Salis, and I'm sure hopefully you'll get to interview him next week. So he's coming in. It could be twice a week. It's definitely one day a week, but then he'll be here at home games. But that he might make the odd away game as well. And the last thing he'd want to be called is a psychologist. He's a performance mindset coach, and it's so key, Rob. And people, when you talk about this, that I know there'd be people sitting there going, "Oh, well, why do you need this and that?" But the best coaches in the past probably did it without even knowing. So if you listen to people like Bill Shankly and Brian Clough, that they did it. They in certain ways they would have ways of getting performances out of people. There's no doubt about that. You only have to listen to how they speak and the things they say. So it was there, but also what was there, it was a very different animal in the kind of player you were dealing with. I spoke to Glyn about this, about his background, working with his dad in Brixton Market and that, all these character building things, which, no disrespect to players, that isn't necessarily there now with a lot of young players, and that's not their fault. That's just the way life is. We live in a world now where a lot of things, they're just given to you very, very quickly. If you want to order food, you dial something and it's there. You want to do this, it's there, and that brings about different characters. But it doesn't mean that. So young people learn in different ways. And when you talk about elite sports, and you're talking about football or any sport where you want to be elite, you're standing there at the bottom of this mountain, and the top of the mountain is a professional footballer, and it's how do you climb this mountain? And sometimes they may have not had the life experience to help them climb that mountain, because as I said, everything has come to them quite easy, and the one thing that's not going to come easy to you is being a professional footballer and being a success. So you have to look at it differently. It's not about being alternative or whatever. This is what it's about. It's about people. And then within that, the players you've got in there, they're all different. They're all different. Every single one of them is different. They've got different life experiences, different emotions, and it's how basically you're going to get the best out of them. And also as a collective, how we're going to gel, taking into account those different personalities, and and how we're going to gel, and how we're going to connect, and how the fans feel an attachment. So for me, it's a huge thing.
And you also said as well about the fact of it's understandable that it's going to take time to implement things as well.
Yeah.
How grateful and how important is that now that you've got that time to properly implement things here?
Yeah, well, I don't know how much time I got, but no. I mean, it in the perfect world, it would have been lovely to have some 3 weeks of training, because when you're building an identity, a style of play, there's nothing better than having that time on the grass to build it. But the lads have been really, really good. They've bought into everything so far. So we're for the next 5-6 weeks now. We're Saturday, Tuesday. So they've got to be thinking on their feet, and the staff, we got to be thinking on their feet. And making sure that we're getting the education into them as much as we can, because the turnover times are very, very short. And if you spend too much time reflecting on the past game, the next one's coming up, and this again goes back to the 80% us, 20% the opposition. If we can keep building our identity and just look at the small detail on them, that's going to be key. And it goes back to those processes, day in, day out, keeping things fresh, but not having those highs and lows of a win or a defeat or a draw when maybe you should have won. It's just going back and looking at the fine detail, because the reason we love football is because of what it throws up. The reason it's the greatest sport in the world is because anything can happen. You can be playing absolutely brilliantly, and should have been 2-3 up, hit the post, and then someone smashes one in from 30 yards. That's why we love the game, is because that's what it's like. So for me, all you can ever do, you can't go out and go, we're going to win on Saturday, but what you can do, you can load the odds in your favour as strong as you possibly can, and that's mentally, physically, tactically, and that's all you can ever do, because you never know what the game's going to throw up. But if you keep loading the odds in your favour, then thankfully you should win more than you lose.
Remember that brilliant day that we had, that Eddie Jones came down to the training ground, and he worked with you, of course, as well there. How much do you sort of still enjoy reading and learning from the great coaches and managers yourself? Yeah,
I mean, you have to. If what mould you, your own life experiences mould you. But then if you don't have any other life experiences, that's where you are. You stop growing. So obviously your life experiences will mould you in a certain way. But then the more life experiences you have around, especially around what you're going to do, that's what helps you grow. So, and that's something I want to do here, you know, in terms of developing people. I've spoke to Bezo about this, and I think this is why he's excited. He's been in 9 years. I said, when have you ever gone on a club visit? You know, when have you been somewhere else to go and pick up? You're already a fantastic coach, but and he said, I'd love to do that, I'd love to do that. And Bezo goes away to a different environment and I know what sort of character he is. He'll come bouncing through the door on the Thursday, reinvigorated, re-stimulated, have a new idea. He might have only picked up one thing, you know, but that will make his goalkeepers better, it makes him better. And that's what I want to do with everyone in the building, so that's what I've always done.
Best football session I've seen by a mile was Bayern Munich with Pep. And the thing that stood out to me was the intent of the players. Well, these are some of the best players in the world. Who is it? Robbo, Robbo, Muller, those guys, you know, won World Cups. The way they trained, everything meant, every ball they contested, 100%. So they started off with they trained for about 60 minutes. They did a warm-up drill, and then they played, rondo, and every ball counted. Every ball counted. Every possession counted. They weren't just warming up, they were playing to win. Then they played a 7-on-7 game, and again, the way they worked off the ball, the energy, the communication, they were always talking to each other. Yeah, you find the big difference between players. It's not how big you are, it's not how fast you are, it's not who your mother and father is. It's your attitude and how much you want it. And you see that at training.
When I went to Japan with Mike, you know, again, we've always sort of prided ourselves in the academy in terms of, you know, our lads are down to earth and get it. And we saw the way what these lads did in Japan. And again, we just come away going, well, we've got to up our game, you know. So, but if you don't have those experiences, you just stay the same. And staying the same is dangerous. So you can't stay the same.
Final question. You are of course in charge now, and that does mean going back to that interview 10 years ago. Black boots are in, snoods are out, all other distractions are out. You're not having any of that. That's going to be the Robbo way from now on, is it?
Well, it's the way with the academy. I mean, people have asked about this because I think Mike did a presentation on it, that they got the black boot rule. And again, some people don't like it because they're going, oh, you're stopping people expressing themselves. And it's not about that. They express themselves on the pitch with what they do. And if anyone sees our coaches work, we love players to express themselves. It's more about just earning the right to, you know, earn the right to do. If you want to wear orange boots, well, what if you know, buying a pair of orange boots that you've seen on the telly isn't going to make you that player that you watched on the telly wearing the orange boots. That's what this is about.
Yeah.
It's about the hard work. You know, find out what that fella does on the telly wearing the orange boots. Find out what he did to get where he did. Then you do what he did. You know, and then okay, brilliant.
Yeah.
First thing you could, you know, I'll be honest, and it doesn't bother me. They could wear what they like. If they run through brick walls for the club, I couldn't care less about that. But it's just giving them a ground, and it's not about restricting them or trying to make them robots. Or it's not about that. It's about earning things, and their perception as a young person said, their perception of hard work and what you need to do can be very different to you. But it's not about, you know, battering them with rules and regulations. That's the last thing it's about. You know, our whole academy learning environment is about ownership. You know, but it's one of the few things that we would do, and that Mike really wants to do, because he's just going, no, earn the right. If you want to wear your favourite player's orange boots, earn the right.
Robbo, it's been great catching up with you, and congratulations once again.
Yeah.
Really looking forward to going forward now.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you. You've got to keep learning. You've got to keep stretching yourself. You've got to continue development, and especially the way things are now, sort of modern day environments. Everyone wants to run before they can walk and think they know everything, and you know, you've got to continuously open yourselves up to different learning. You know, and that's something I pride myself on. Is I go and work with tennis coaches. I work with lots of different coaches, just trying to gain those bits of knowledge. You know, and if you just pick up one thing from everyone you go to, then it's going to make you a better coach, because no one's got the the definitive answer. All you can do is keep trying to find the best ways. If there was only one way, we'd all do it.